Hey football freaks, it's Alan. Just wanted to take the time here to let you know that this week's show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. If you're thinking of doing a podcast, there is a way for you to do a show without having to become an audio editing master, a production whiz kid. You can just go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get your own personal producer at a very, very low cost. That'll be someone who can guide you, assist you, help you out with whatever you need to get your podcast off the ground. If you have an idea or a topic you want to talk about on a weekly basis, a daily basis, it doesn't matter. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Get started today. Take some of the hassle of starting a podcast off your shoulders and let the audio professionals at Pretty Easy Podcasts help you out. Pretty Easy Podcasts is where podcasters go to get their shows recorded and posted with a complete podcast studio at their disposal. Record from home or your office or anywhere, really. Pretty Easy Podcasts caters to your schedule and gives you a producer for your show at your beck and call. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com, sign up today, be heard, have some fun podcasting, and don't let a lack of technical knowledge hold you back. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com today.
This is Pep Hamilton, head coach, general manager of your DC Defenders. Enjoy the XFL show.
Well, the first thing we do is we get the best hides, and we pick the best parts of the best hides to get the best leather that we can for the football. That's where it starts. Then we go through, we stamp team logos, we start stitching it together, we stitch the reinforcements in, we turn it right side out. Then we insert a bladder, close it up with laces. Then the last step is we inflate it and make sure the shape is good and make sure it has the right air pressure.
We first started ideation January of 2018. I'm meeting with Chris Calandra and the team at Big Game, Bones and everybody, just talking about what could be different. Looking at the ball in terms of components, whether it's the laces, the color, the stripes on the ball, all the different things that we tested. We did 4 different versions of the leather. We tested 8 different colors on the ball. We did 3 different ways to impress the ball to create the X's. We did 2 different types of lacing. It was a whole total process that took the entire year to be able to get to one of the spots where we have one of the best footballs ever made.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of December 1st, 2019. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
This week, the XFL game ball was revealed just in time for your Turkey Bowl. This is episode 98, Tasty Touchdowns, and we are putting this show together on the morning after Black Friday. Bryant, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great, Alan. You know, I was responsible for the turkey this year, so I brined the turkey. I marinated the turkey some more. I put some butter, some garlic, some rosemary. You know, we got the best turkey we could find, and then we put it in the oven a couple times until we got it right. But we're in a good spot with our Thanksgiving dinner. Waiting for some really good turkey sandwiches after this. Man, how was yours?
Why do I feel like when you're describing your cooking of the turkey like the same way that I've heard the ball was being made this week when we were talking to Sam Schwartzstein?
Perfection takes detail, Alan.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And we have a very detailed-oriented show this week because, we have a very special, good, crisp interview as we are only 10 weeks away from kickoff 2020. And our good, crisp interview this week will be Director of Football Operations, Sam Schwartzstein from the XFL to talk about, yes, the game balls. And if you checked out our YouTube channel, I did an unboxing of one of the footballs that I was sent. I got a St. Louis Battlehawks football, Bryant, and oh my goodness, it feels better every time I pick that thing up.
I feel like I've heard that before too. Alan, it was a pretty entertaining video. If you check it out on our YouTube, youtube.com/this is the XFL show. But yeah, you you were trying to save as much of that concoction that it came in that turkey looking wrapping as possible. But
gotta save the packaging. It's a collector's item. Yeah, that thing's too cool.
I thought you were getting like a general XFL ball, but I didn't see one online. So you unfortunately got the St. Louis Battlehawks ball.
What do you mean, unfortunately? It's one of the best balls they made of the 8. We're going to be breaking down those 8 balls, talk about our favorites, what we think of the design. But in our Good Crisp interview, you're going to hear all about the planning, the process by which the ball was made and how decisions were made and how long it took and everything that went into it. When Sam Schwartzstein joins us, we interviewed him earlier in the week, and it's fascinating, and they are super hyped about the ball. They really didn't hold anything back when it came to researching and testing things out. And if you've picked up a ball yet, I mean, they are for sale. If you've got sent ones like we did, luckily, you picked these balls up, and they feel like a different kind of football, but then at the same time, just, the same as any football you've ever picked up in terms of the dimensions and everything. But this feels like something that a lot of effort was put into, doesn't it, Brian?
It really does. It looks like something that took a serious amount of time to get to. We're talking about months and months of preparation just to get a prototype out there, and then from the prototype stages out there, who knows how long it actually took. So we'll get into all that detail. Sam Schwartzstein was really gracious enough at this time on this busy holiday week to sit with us and actually go through the entire process. So check that interview out here in a little bit. Alan, did you get to play your turkey bowl with that ball though?
I played a mini turkey bowl. It wasn't a lot. I didn't have a full game. It wasn't 11 on 11 or anything in the mud the way I like it, but we played a little, 2-on-2. I was all-time quarterback because I'm not letting anybody touch that ball as much as I'm touching. That's my ball now, forever.
So are you throwing it to yourself a la Charlie Brown Christmas or something like that?
Yeah.
Where it's just
And it's really cool that it came, before the Turkey Bowl for sure, because, that's a big football day, and I was holding that thing all day long on Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone had an excellent holiday. We're going to get into this week's show in just a second with all the new stuff, but looking back to last week's show, the Pep Hamilton interview, thanks to everybody for the feedback and the responses and everybody's hype that's a fan of the DC Defenders and Pep Hamilton, letting everybody know how fast his team's going to be. What an interview that was last week. You could check it out on last week's show, or it's isolated on our YouTube channel. So that's there. This week's Good Crisp interview will be the same after the show gets posted. And we have some plans for more great interviews with coaches / general managers of each team. So be on the lookout for those. And then also, Brian, I don't know if you caught our social media at all this week at XFL show, but we had some people agreeing with you and I when it came to the LA mini camp in Las Vegas issue that we talked about last week. I think we are in the majority when it comes to that argument we had with Vince last week.
Well, as per usual, Vince is wrong. No, I'm joking. but seriously, so you and I agreed that was a good idea for the Wildcats for many reasons. And yeah, social media did kind of back us up on that. I think it's a great plan for the Wildcats. Plus, it gets me to go to Vegas another time before the end of the year. Who doesn't love that kind of thing? So
yeah,
it really is for gambling, right? Well, Vince for whatever reason, but no, it was a great thing, and I think the Wildcats are making a great decision going out there. Just hearing, I think they'll be there by the weekend. You might be hearing this and actually be there.
Yeah. Go sneak in at UNLV and get a glimpse of the mini camp if you can. Give us some, maybe post some pics or give us some detail. Call in to the XFL fan line 724-5654-XFL if you're in the Vegas area. Also, I was on Fan this week. I don't know about you, Bryant, but I was on the Football Advisory Network a little bit, posting my thoughts and opinions on the footballs and their design. And I'm encouraging people to sign up there because I have a lot of fun interacting with fans there. It's a lot like your traditional platforms, but this is all XFL official channels, and for sure the league is listening to whatever you post on that website. So I was on Fan. Were you?
I have not, being responsible for the entire Thanksgiving dinner has put me in a little bit of a setback here, but I'll hit it up this weekend. Again, Alan, you make a great point, though. You think this isn't something like ESPN.com article comments, right? This is XFL's hub for you to put comments. So if you have something to say, definitely go there, Alan. I'm sure they're taking your criticism or your positive feedback on the footballs from that website directly. So it's actually pretty cool. I'm going to go check it out in a little bit. I'm sure there's a lot of great things out there for me fans to read and for the league to observe as well.
And also the year is winding down. We're in December now, and planning must start with mini camps already getting underway here. Bryant, we got training camps to start planning for in Houston, and we were already talking a little bit about how and when we're going to get there. We got to nail that down pretty soon, but safe to say we plan on at least getting down there for a portion of the training camp festivities, right? The 2-week extravaganza.
Oh, definitely. We want to check that out. There are all 8 teams in an area in a single, consolidated area for a reason. And I think that's because they want us to go down there as well too, right? Enjoy as many teams as you can.
Yeah.
So definitely planning a weekend here to go and enjoy the Houston training camps, because this is kind of a monumental thing. You never hear about this. You can't go and check 8 football teams mini camps in one area unless you're doing it for like college football or something like that, right? So you'd have to go like Joku all the way to D1.
Yeah, you got to get down there if you're hyped at all for the XFL and in striking distance of the Houston area, or if you have time to spare a weekend or portion of January. Highly encourage it to all of our football freak listeners, because we're going to be down there for a little bit, and we'd love to see you there at the training camps. We'll be observing, we'll be reporting, we'll be doing shows, and I'm sure interacting, because it's going to be a whole fan experience. So stay tuned to us for our, we'll give you dates when we're going to be there. But of course, we do know that training camps just over a month away, Bryant. Can you believe it? In January 4th through the 22nd. And crazy. 1 month, 10 weeks from kickoff, but 1 month from training camp.
Well, some would say we're closer than ever to kickoff here as we speak right now. I'm going to say this, and I don't know if you know this too, Alan, but we are closer than ever to training camp as well. So we're getting there. Mm-hmm. It's just around the corner. But you're right. It is going to be a great time. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow us on social media at XFL Show. We'll break out all those details for you. So when we're actually going to be there. So hopefully we can sit down and enjoy ourselves some training camp together.
And I'm sure Bryant will be doing some incredible Patreon content as well, in addition to the big shows in Houston. And this week, very special on the Patreon, although we took the week off from the NFL college football show because it was Thanksgiving. We had a monster of an interview that we got to post early for the general patrons.
Alan, like we say every week, if you're that interested in our good, crisp interview, we put that up right when it happens, right? We hang up the phone, we cut it, and we put it up on the Patreon, so you can get that a whole week early, basically, sometimes, if you're on our Patreon. Alan, you also talked about a great week. We're going to have our monthly this is not our monthly bonus episode for the month of November, where we're going to talk a special subject this week, Alan. I think we have some ideas going there. We'll definitely talk about that on the Patreon. A lot of great content out there, a lot of great interviews, discussions that we've had over the past 12 months, I would say. So go check that out, patreon.com/this is the XFL show. Yes, and our weekly This Is Not the XFL show, Alan, that we had to take a break because of the holidays, is always up there, where we talk all things football except the XFL. So it's a great show out there. So go ahead and check that out, patreon.com/this is the XFL show.
And I do want to get back on the Night XFL show. We got to talk about halftime shows and the power going out on Thanksgiving, which was hilarious. And we'll have all sorts of fun football content outside the XFL. Of course, bonus XFL content you can't get anywhere else except the Patreon, and early access to stuff you'll hear on the main feed before everybody else. So go check it out if you want to give to the Patreon. That is tremendous, and we will thank you forever in 100 years. If not, continue to subscribe to the main feed. We appreciate you listening. either way, and appreciate you riding down the road to 2020 with us here on This Is the XFL Show. That's patreon.com/This Is the XFL Show. But all right, Brian, if you aren't too full and tired and hopped up on tryptophan from Thanksgiving, I'm ready to go into some of the news from this week and then start arguing about this game ball design and which one looks the best.
Yeah, that's it. Let's get into it, man.
All right,
I got into it with family enough, so let's try to be peaceful here. By the way,
oh, we always are. But first, let's get into some news and notes from this week in the XFL with the cover two.
Going for two. Go for two and the lead.
Okay, first up on the cover two, Bryant. Really interesting here because so far we've seen players go from XFL rosters or being drafted by the XFL to NFL practice squads and NFL rosters pretty freely until this week, where the XFL declined Josh Johnson, the quarterback of the LA Wildcats, to go to the Detroit Lions, who were interested in him. Josh Johnson was with Washington last year. I believe he was with Detroit earlier this year, wasn't he? And they're down to they're down to David Blowie Wowie, who looked pretty good on Thanksgiving, but they were down to a third string quarterback, so they were reaching out to get Josh Johnson back on the roster. But the XFL this time around did not allow a player to jump over to the NFL, and I have to believe, Bryant, that has to do with the proximity to mini camps and training camps, because we are closer than ever, as we always say. But also, Josh Johnson, don't forget, was an assigned quarterback just last week.
Yeah, and so I think the wording here is interesting. I think the XFL blocking Josh Johnson is kind of not too accurate. It's not so much that they blocked him; it's that they didn't release him, right? So the NFL's CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, basically says that a player to be signed to an NFL contract cannot be signed to play football anywhere else. And because Josh Johnson signed a contract, he cannot go to the Detroit Lions unless the XFL releases him from that contract. So it's not like he was just sitting around and the XFL said, no, you can't go, right? The XFL has him signed and didn't release him. So I just want to get that out there, right? So it's a little more, hey, this is the understanding of what's going on. But you're right, the XFL said no to this one, and I think it's kind of the first one they got the opportunity to say no to, if you really think about it, because all the other players that have been jumping to the NFL practice squads or whatnot, they haven't been signed, right? The contracts aren't official until this coming week when minicamps start. If we remember that, the letter to players that was sent out a few months back.
Yeah, you're right. So you put that nicely, I think, because the ink is on the paper. So that's really what kept him from going to the NFL here, and that's I would say you're right. Not so much a block, but the XFL expecting a player to honor the contract that he just signed. Even though the ink's probably still fresh on the paper, it was signed, and that would be a much different scenario, releasing a player and letting him go, than just letting a player go who hasn't signed yet but is expected to sign. Different scenario in Josh Johnson's case to some of the guys we've seen, jump to practice squads and rosters, especially with the DC Defenders that we talked about last week, all the guys they've drafted who ended up getting NFL opportunities. So you have to believe if it was this week and other players were, presented the opportunity Josh Johnson was, they might have been allowed to go because they have not signed yet. So not so much a block, but the XFL expecting a contract to be honored. The XFL also protecting a quarterback that they believe is going to make their league a high-quality football league. Josh Johnson was an assigned quarterback, not a drafted quarterback, which means he signed his contract earlier than other players. So that makes sense to me. And also you have to start, kind of keeping an eye on the time here. I mean, we are going into mini camps here, and then a month away from training camps, and the closer we get to kickoff, the more constraints there will be on players in terms of jumping at those NFL opportunities, because the XFL will be all about players going for the gusto, getting that money in the NFL. But when we're in season mode, the XFL is going to have to, of course, protect their rosters and make sure that these players are on the field and honoring the contracts that they sign, which only makes absolute sense to me if you think it fit in business terms. You want the people that you signed on to play. And you got to restrict them a little bit in that regard, even though we've heard the XFL is going to try to keep it pretty open for players to go after NFL opportunities after the season.
You have to protect your investment. You have to protect your quality of product. That's all things that are going to go into the XFL trying to make this a viable football league. Vince, I'm going to bring you in here and ask you, would you have blocked Josh Johnson would you have not released Josh Johnson from your XFL contract to let him sign with the Detroit Lions to play for, 3 weeks of football?
Definitely, you don't want to release this guy. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, this is. I'm with Alan here. This is an investment that you have, and it's all about the quality of the play, and you're trying to get as many quality players as you can. And this is somebody you identified as one of your top guys. You can't just let him walk away to another team and risk injury or never coming back.
Yeah, and at the end of the season, fine. But if you're in season mode, which the assigned quarterbacks are, I mean, these guys are already out there as representatives of the team doing media hits and going to, the team and fan interaction, events. Bryant, these guys are already just as much a part of the teams as the coaches and their staffs, which have already been in the league, in the team buildings for months now. So, guys like Josh Johnson, Landry Jones, Luis Perez, Matt McGloin, we've seen doing a lot of cool work with the New York Guardians out in the public. These guys are already a part of the team. Their season essentially has already started. They're under contract. That just makes sense to me. Now, people will, outside of the XFL who are reporting on this, Bryant, you said, are reporting this as a block. Maybe we should think about rewording that. The XFL is just trying to make sure they have good players, and who could blame the league for that?
Exactly. You wouldn't want, in regular day jobs, if your company's competitor wanted to sign you for 4 weeks, your company's not going to let you go for those 4 weeks. That just doesn't happen in the real world. So I don't know why it would happen in the world of football. I will say this though: Josh Johnson was initially released by the Detroit Lions on September 17th of this year. I'm sure discussions about Josh Johnson joining the league have been, very ongoing since then. It's not something that the XFL decided to do a couple of weeks ago, probably, or maybe even a couple of days ago, where Josh Johnson just, instinctively signed a contract because he needed a job. I'm sure this is something they've been going back and forth with, negotiated with. Josh Johnson knew the risks of signing this contract if something happened where he could get a job back in the NFL. And the XFL is not saying that their players are never going to be allowed to go to the NFL. As soon as the season's over, they're more than welcome to sign a contract. So I think it's a balance on both sides. The XFL is not really, I heard the word bad precedent is what I've heard a lot when reporting about this incident. And I say incident, but this, isolated situation, I'll say. The XFL is just doing what they're doing to make sure that their quality of play is at the highest standard possible.
It's more. I like how you said that, Alan, about the headline. It should be more Lions try to steal quarterback from the XFL as opposed to XFL blocks player from leaving.
Exactly. And you know what? The Lions, at the end of it, they lost, but they still looked like they had an okay quarterback in there filling in for Driscoll and Stafford. So,
and I was just going to say, I was talking to his cousin yesterday, and, they fully thought that was going to happen with David Blau there. And so they were very excited to see that. But this is such a millennial thing, in my opinion, of, just contracts not being honored and people feeling that they could just, go wherever they want with no consequences. It's sickening.
Well, I don't think you need to attack our entire generation over this. This is an isolated incident.
Our entire generation.
Well,
I'm on the other side of that.
You would be included in what would be considered a millennial, Vince. I don't know. Do you know the year you were born in?
No, I've redrawn the lines there.
Vince
He's redistricting in his own mind. It's great.
I guess maybe if you consider it a mindset, then yeah, Vince would be considered a boomer. We might boomer you at some point during today's show. Then Vince, heads up. There is another not incident, what should we call the scenario, that this same situation came up with later on in the week. That'll be the second part of our cover two here, and that is that the XFL's offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Vipers, Jamie Elizondo, came up in the CFL as a potential candidate for the Edmonton Eskimos job, and the XFL expects Jamie Elizondo to honor his contract he signed with the Tampa Bay Vipers, so he will not be interviewing for that head coaching job in Edmonton. And similar to the Josh Johnson situation, Bryant, Jamie Elizondo is basically being protected as a huge asset for this league. He's one of the offensive coordinators for one of the 8 teams. He signed a contract, another situation where a guy's expected to honor a contract before he goes ahead and jumps at another opportunity.
All right, Alan, this is a different situation, right? We talked about players, now we're talking about coaches. We saw this happen in the AAF when Brad Childress quit or left the Atlanta Legends. We never figured out exactly why he left before the season started, and you can see the team suffered mightily. I mean, people say they were not well prepared for such a loss. So to lose an offensive coordinator to a team, like you're saying, calendar-wise, right before mini camps, is not something you want to have to replace or have to think about going into your inaugural season. These are things that you're going to want to make sure they're tidy up. I mean, I don't know exactly when Jamie Elizondo signed, but I'm sure it's been a while. They've been working together. This is a well-oiled machine in their minds. Trestman has them down there, working together to get this right, and to throw that kind of a wrench into that system would be detrimental to the season. So I can see the XFL into why they don't want him jumping to the CFL.
Yeah, Vince, do you remember when we were talking about that Brad Childress incident? We were saying, like, if this happens in the XFL, that would not be a good thing. So if you're someone hoping the XFL succeeds, seeing a coach getting retained this way, even though he has an opportunity at a head coaching job into the CFL, that is a pretty cool gig. But the fact that the XFL is able to make sure this guy's a part of this league is great for the league, isn't it?
Yeah, I no doubt about that, and especially with how close we are to the season. We're talking about these, mini camps and starting very, very soon. Training camp, I believe, January 4, a huge day. Do we know? We don't know exactly when all the mini camps are going to be starting, do we?
Not all of them. We've got info coming in on some of them, one by one, but we'll hear when Tampa's is pretty soon, I'm expecting.
Yeah, and we're at the end of November, so we know it's going to be sometime in December here. If you would lose, I'd say losing an offensive or defensive coordinator at this point would just be catastrophic to your team. This is big in my opinion.
So the Tampa Bay Vipers will retain Jamie Elizondo, who highly coveted up in the CFL. Shout out to the Blue Bombers of Winnipeg winning the Grey Cup last week. A long drought ends up there for them, but the CFL will now have their coaching carousel begins, and Elizondo has a lot of tight relationships up there. The Edmonton job would have been appealing. He's friends with their quarterback, Trevor Harris, who he's worked with in the past. So it would have made sense. Elizondo was a head coaching candidate before in that league, I believe for the Toronto job and the BC job, but he ended up joining the Tampa Bay staff and Mark Trestman, and he's going to be coaching in the XFL. And I think if you're rooting for the XFL to succeed, that's great. The initial coaching hires, sticking with the league. We saw what a disaster that was for the AAF. Just another way we see the XFL separating itself from other spring leagues of the past that had some missteps and some unfortunate breaks when it comes to things like this. So another instance of the XFL protecting its assets, very highly coveted assets in players and coaches. A little bonus cover 2 action here to throw in some lagniappe, as they say down in Louisiana, Vince. Landry Jones was, among other quarterbacks, doing local media, but I watched this interview. It was on XFL.com. He was on the CBS affiliate in Dallas-Fort Worth, and it kind of was let out in this interview, even though It hasn't been officially announced on any social media platforms or the website just yet, but the Dallas Renegades will be starting their mini camp December 4 and 5 in Arlington High School. And that was really interesting. We got the second of the 8 mini camp announcements there. It's on XFL.com. It's a part of the interview. And now we know that LA will be in Vegas, and the Dallas Renegades will be right there in their own backyard, Vince, in Arlington, not in New Orleans or any other sinful town. So I think you should be all right with this one.
Yeah, I got to say right now, Dallas is probably the favorite for being most focused.
Well, yeah.
Call me up and tell me I'm wrong.
Well, we'll see when the Wildcats and Renegades play. Vince, we'll see how it affected them when it comes to the mini camp location.
Yeah, and I would love to hear from the listeners. What are we at XFL Show on Twitter? To hear what the listeners have to say about who they think is the most focused. Who they think is the favorite now as we get all this game planning information coming out.
Yeah, well, Vince, I will tell you this. Earlier on the show before you got into the studio, Bryant and I were talking about how multiple people on social media agreeing with he and I when it comes to LA going to Vegas, and as opposed to your thoughts on that issue.
And that's why I encourage all the listeners to continue to be very open-minded and listen to every little thing that I say on this show, because I think they could really learn something.
Jesus.
Well, if you want to call in and address Vince directly, the number 724-5654-XFL on the XFL fan line. Also on this video of Landry Jones, Bryant, there was a lot of talk about the football, a lot of talk about getting involved with the community. And then there's another video on XFL.com of Landry Jones, which we heard a sneak peek of earlier in the show. There's a whole video about the creation of the XFL game ball. And in that video, Landry Jones is a part of it. And he said, quote, "The more I throw it, the better it feels." And I couldn't agree with him more.
It was actually the maker of the football, if I'm not mistaken, was in Dallas or the Dallas area. So Landry Jones's input in that was probably very vital to get that thing perfect. So Landry getting the feel for the football, that might be an advantage that I'm very upset with, that maybe some of the other quarterbacks in the league don't really have, to get that feel of that football to start the season this early.
So go check that out for sure. That XFL game ball design creation video. It's so cool. It's up on XFL.com. So is that Landry Jones interview with local media. Got to give a shout out to all the work all these QBs are starting to do. I've seen a bunch of social media posts, Brian, of guys like Matt McGloin and Landry Jones, Josh Johnson, getting out there in the communities, giving away like turkeys and working with youth football groups and stuff. It's really cool to see that these teams and players are already getting involved and getting people hyped up for the season, but also doing good deeds.
Yeah, and a lot of things to give thanks for. Also, they're getting the communities involved, the fans involved. This week, I'll be headed over to the LA facilities to talk some football with those fine people at the Wildcats organization, just opening their doors to fans like us, to different people to get ideas, and it's actually great. So it's fan, basically, the fan football advisory network expanded into real life now too, because there really are a lot of things to be thankful for when the XFL as it comes to fan engagement. So thank you, XFL, for that, for sure. And I can't wait for this week to get down to the trenches with the Wildcats. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to need a full report of that, Bryant. I'm going to need pics, selfies, videos, hopefully some audio for the show. And and if you could maybe get Coach Moss to cut a promo on Vince for calling them out for Vegas, that'd be nice too.
TBD, but definitely a goal. If Coach Moss can cut a promo on Vince, I think Vince will be quivering in his boots for sure.
I will be coaching like a crazy man.
All right, if you're ready now, let's get into this week's good, crisp interview. We're going to learn all about the design of the XFL game ball, the process they went through to come up with the design, how it was made, the reasoning behind its design, everything going into it. Super interesting. This is, Landry Jones called it, Vince, the weapon that the quarterbacks will be using come 2020. And it is the tool by which these masters will be applying their trade, and it is going to be crucial to the success of the league. And it is, I think, a beauty. And we're going to talk all about all 8 game ball designs after this week's Good Crisp interview. Here it is, Sam Schwartzstein, the director of XFL football operations. This week's show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts, helping podcasters get their shows off the ground and running at a low cost. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com today to get started. Hit up the Contact Us section, fill out your information, and your show could be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your favorite podcast platforms in no time. It's professional sounding podcast production done the right way at a low rate without you ever having to think about any of the production stuff. You don't have to learn how to edit. You don't have to learn how to get your show wherever you need it to get to. All you have to do is sign up with Pretty Easy Podcasts, worry about the content, worry about being creative and doing your show your way. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com.
Good crisp football.
I tried to get you in D.C. to tell me about it. You couldn't tell me anything was official then. Then during the draft, it was still being kept hush-hush, but finally the XFL footballs are public. We could talk about everything that went into them, man. I'm so hyped for this.
Yeah, it's exciting. I remember having to hide all the balls as people were coming into the office. So my desk normally has about 12 balls on it, but had to hide them in Doug's office.
Yeah, we were saying, what's behind that? What's under that giant sheet in that office, Brian? I remember saying that when we walked in.
Right.
Well, Brian, start us off here, man, because we got to know every detail about these footballs because they look amazing.
There's some great videos out there, Sam, right now, right, of all the different technology, but we want to hear from you. Just tell us, really what are the main physical features that separate this ball from what other balls that we're used to seeing in the sport of football?
So first and foremost, our ball covers the same dimensions as a standard NFL football, professional football. So it's dimensions-wise, it's the same. It's the same leather that you'll see in the NFL football, same leather you'll see in professional football and collegiate football. So from a basics performance component standpoint, it's the same. How we modify that is a little bit different. The most recognizable feature is going to be the X tips, or the tips of the ball with an X on it. That white piece on the end, that was a design idea. We had about 50 of them come across our desk in football ops, and we're looking at different pieces of what we could do with the ball, and then we would be there to say, does this help or hurt the player when they use it? And so we actually didn't know if it would help or hurt the player. And then when we finally tested it at the showcases, because there actually was a lot of hard work that went into making sure that one worked as well. The X pebbling, which we'll get to later, that one clearly was very hard, but actually creating stripes that go on the tip of the ball compared to the stripes on the sides of the ball or around the circumference of the ball, that was harder to do than people may think. And Big Game and Team Issue did a great job putting that together. So that's probably the first and foremost. The next one is the X pebbling, which was a really an idea that came to us outside of design firm. Hadn't really thought about it, but came to us when Bobby Monica and I. He's our league equipment manager. He's been around the block, awesome guy, been around forever in the football world. We were at the AFCA talking with all the ball manufacturers, and Team Issue and Chris Calandro came up to us, and we were talking about it, and they actually showed us an SMU autograph ball that had really large indentations and extrusions coming out of it. And that kind of made the idea, you could manipulate leather in unique ways. And they were the only ones doing it in unique ways. And so that's where the idea of creating an interconnecting XFL X logo into it. And so that's where we thought about it. Again, we didn't want performance to suffer from when we modify the ball. So players need to be able to catch the ball. Players need to be able to throw the ball. Yes, players need to snap the ball. It's still very important to us. Not as important as throwing and catching, but the center matters. And we wanted to make sure it didn't get affected too much. So we tried a lot of different sizes as well, but we ended up with the standard size. It's this size for a reason, the ball. And it's because players like to catch the fat of the ball. We tried a narrower ball that floated in the air. Shorter balls don't give as much circumference or give as much area to catch the ball. So that's where we came into this solid solid ball we have now and settled into the sizing of it. Another piece is that our ball, the bladder, is unique to what Team Issue does is the top of the ball and the bottom of the ball are balanced. When you add the laces, you get an imbalanced ball. And so it's harder to throw a tighter spiral. So our ball spirals a little bit nicer based on how we've balanced it.
And I think it's going to look really cool with the spiral with that X tip too, Sam. And I love how you guys really focused on function. You want it to look cool, but function is so important. And these balls are looking like they're going to benefit the players a little bit. Tell us about those X tips, because those should help wide receivers maybe locate balls better, huh?
Yeah, when we saw the design, it reminded us a lot in the football ops department of the practice balls that wide receivers will have. In high school, we had balls that had on the 4 panels on the tips of the ball, there'd be a green 1, a red 2, a blue 3, and a yellow 4. And when you throw the ball, the coach would yell color or number, and you had to look it in, you would say what was on top. You know, if it was color, you'd say yellow. If it was number, you'd say 4. And right, that was part of it. And so this was a way to look the ball in, and this gave us that piece as you track the ball in the air. So we wanted to make sure that was the visual part of it. And so as you'll see when we have the 18 balls, we had thought process on having it be all team colors, the stripes, the laces, everything be team colors. But we then thought if we do it so unique, every team will have to have every set of balls, because the Vipers will punch a Vipers ball to a Battlehawks returner. So we didn't want to have to create brand new balls for everybody on every team to where you'd have to have every set there and practice with every set. So when the ball's spinning, you'll be able to track the white part of the ball. Every ball has the same whites so that we don't have to have cross-functionally around all the teams.
Well, Sam, you mentioned a little bit about the teams having their own balls. What went into the process of doing that and letting teams kind of have their own colors on the ball while they're on offense?
So pulling back the curtain, every team has had their own balls in college football, professional football. That's just something. We wanted to showcase that. You'll even see in college football, some teams will use a Nike ball and then another team will use a Wilson ball within the same game, right? Fans may not notice that. But so we just wanted to kind of put that at the forefront that lets fans be able to have and see their own their team's football. And that team will be able to they'll have 12 footballs they'll bring to each game. That'll be prepped for them to be able to use throughout the game, and thought, okay, this is kind of putting into the forefront, letting fans a little in on the little secret of the football industry.
Well, Sam, also the one thing that I want to know, because it seems like it's been a long and very strenuous process, but you're here. The ball exists. Can you talk about the whole process from concept to completion and what that was all like now that the ball is actually finalized for February 2020?
Yeah, so that was probably the most exciting part. And as we've done this rules, it's been this build, test, repeat process using the lean startup method. And for those who don't know, the lean startup method is saying don't spend 40 years in a lab creating something before you release it to the public. This was bring it to the customer, the user base, an MVP, a minimum viable product, and test it real time. Have them use it. Have them be able to try and perform with it, and then they'll give you notes back and iterate. So we first had the first iteration of the ball go from design phase to performance phase at the Spring League in Austin. And we never played a game with it. We just wanted to fit it in, have quarterbacks give us notes on it. That had red and blue laces. And then it was a brown leather ball at the time. And there was a very deep imprinted X into the ball. So it was rough. It would have messed with the player's hands over time. Because it was too imprinted. So then we went to a more production phase, added the white laces because we actually hadn't figured out how to do that yet. Team Issue and our team was still working on it. And then we went to the first showcase, and we had the lighter leather, the non-tanned leather, and then a thinner ball. And then we got a lot of notes on that. We were not ready to play football that week. Let's put it that way. And we charted every throw and interviewed every wide receiver and quarterback at every showcase. Getting that data, we would then provide notes to Team Issue on Sunday. Tuesday, they would have production balls that they would send us on Thursday. We'd game prep them before the showcase and then ultimately throw them that Saturday and Sunday, or that Friday and Saturday. So that's when we did this process. Every week we were sending notes and creating new prototypes for each summer showcase. So it was a really cool process to go into that to really get to the final. I think the final version of the final prototype we actually had at TSL in Mission Viejo, and it was a really cool moment. I remember opening the box, and we were not in a great place with the ball. Opening the box, the first time I held it in my hands, I was like, "This is it. We are there." And it was because we had the same circumference or length and width of the ball, but how we got from the width down to the point of the ball, it was too thin. And it actually was able to increase around where you normally have a typical stripe of the ball, increase that area, that bladder, that side of the ball. And that was that moment where I was like, okay, we have it. It was this one ball. We were able to put it in. And then I have on my desk now the final prototype we used, and we played a full game with it back in Mission Viejo at the end of July. So before we had ever announced the ball, we'd actually played full complete games with the ball and the exact ball. So we didn't have the XFL logo on some of them. We didn't have the tips on some of them when we were testing different things to get it really quickly. But we actually have played 6 total quarters with the XFL football before.
That's amazing, Sam. I love the glimpse into the whole process there. That I just kind of picture you standing there in Mission Viejo holding a box with a glowing light coming out of it, with you maybe wearing an Indiana Jones hat or something. That's what that sounds like. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was very Pulp Fiction-esque, and I think we're all football nerds here, so we can all kind of relate to that moment.
Love
where
it.
I was like, oh my god, because we were not fully convinced that if we weren't going to commit to anything unless it performed, unless our players really liked it, unless our players felt confident that this helped them or helped them in their process. There's nothing we were going to do. We were going to do it for the sake of doing it. We had to make sure that this was going to perform, and so when we finally had that breakthrough, it was awesome.
And I'm looking at all sorts of photos of the balls yet. I haven't gotten one in my hands yet, but this X-Pebble technology grip is really interesting me here, Sam. It looks like these are going to be pretty easy to hold on to, maybe catch. Is it fumble proof then? Is this like a ball hack or something? Or are the offensive players going to enjoy the ball a lot more than defensive players are going to try to be knocking these balls out of players' arms?
It's easier to catch for the defensive players too. So
all right.
We just hope we don't see too many balls on the ground.
Nice. Well, I'm super excited, Brian. I can't wait to get my hands on one.
Well, yeah, I think you can buy these right now, right, Sam? I think they're available for you to go online or purchase it, or sometime soon, right?
They are for purchase, and you guys should stand by your mailboxes.
Oh. I love it. All right, Sam. Well, that's I think that's all the questions we had about these footballs, and then maybe once we play a turkey bowl with them or a belated turkey bowl with them, we'll give you our notes too. And we look forward to talking to you again very soon, because we heard there's a rule book coming out sometime shortly.
Sometime shortly, yeah. Keep your eyes and ears open for that. I got a question for you guys. I know you guys have been fans of the XFL for a while. The only football I ever owned was actually the football from XFL. Have we met your guys' expectations as fans for what this new XFL is doing?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I mean and if we're talking about the ball, I mean, Brian, you and I, you owned the ball. I remember you were the kid who had the XFL ball back in 2001, and we were in love with that thing. And I'm looking at these, and I think they look even better, and they're definitely going to function better. I think I'm loving every bit of it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. The ball. It's I have to get like all 8 of them. I feel like, because it's just they're so cool and so unique, and that's kind of what you want from the league, right, Sammy? It's uniqueness, it's different. So it's still football, but it looks pretty cool, and I can't wait to actually see those things being thrown at me with the cool X and the target. I'm really excited for those types of things.
Cool. That's awesome.
And as fans too, Sam, we got to tell you, we're perusing on the on the Football Advisory Network too, interacting with people there. Like this whole thing, as fans collectively, like the last few weeks even have been drastically different and more interactive, and we're absolutely enjoying it as football fans, and we appreciate all your efforts for sure.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. Love to hear, because it's really this football league is about the football fan, right? First and foremost, and so getting to get that kind of feedback, we had to be a little hush-hush about it. You can go through Instagram and see a little bit of the product development, see a lot of different versions of the ball, but now really being able to talk to fans and hear what they have to say about it, it's pretty exciting.
Sam Schwartzstein, thanks as always, man. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to talking to you when that rule book comes out, and maybe we'll play some catch with these new footballs sometime during the season.
Awesome. Have a good one.
X-Pebble Technology. X-Tips. There it is. Sam Schwartzstein talking all about that game ball. It's a beauty, and it's not only gorgeous, but functional, Bryant. And that was really cool to hear all about everything that went into making this thing. And I've got my Battlehawks ball right here on my lap as we discuss some XFL game balls amongst ourselves.
It was kind of a great insight, information on all this without going into too much, because we're about to go into all of this right now as we talk these footballs. Sam Schwartzstein basically said how at one point he had the aha moment and said, this is it. After months of preparation and work, he knew that this was the ball that they were going to be going with. And to get that feedback, on all the work that goes through designing a football, the XFL, we've always talked about how diligent they've been in basically every decision that they're making, and the tools that they use, as Sam Schwartzstein said in one of the videos, it starts with the tools that they use, this being the football, to make sure it's a quality ball that is going to help performance in some ways. They don't want to fabricate greatness, is something that I remember him saying, but they did want to make sure that there was something that they could to call their own, and the technology behind this is actually pretty impressive. So Sam Schwartzstein and team, congrats, because it looks great, and I'm sure it's going to look good on the field, and it's going to work great for these players as well.
Yeah, let's go. Let's dive all up in this game ball debate, because we all have our favorites. We all have our own opinions. We need to hear them all. I just also want to give credit to Sam Schwartzstein, who could be in the CIA if they wanted him, because this guy knows how to keep a secret. He knows how to, keep vital information to the league, to close to the vest, and not let anything leak. I mean, we were dying to know about the ball when we were up there in Stanford, Bryant, dying to know about the rule book, and this guy is the gatekeeper for the league, and he is so good, and so it gives us so much information though when he's allowed to, and we appreciate his time. But the guy is basically. He is like
he used the sheet, Alan. Hold on. He used the sheet, first of all. Not too CIA-ish. I'll give the man some credit for not divulging the information. But he did cover his desk with a sheet, as if I remember correctly how that works.
I mean, what's more effective than a sheet? Nobody is going to go up there and lift that sheet. Who would dare? I almost did, but then I thought, no, they might cut my hands off. No, they wouldn't. All right, let's get into the debate. Here we go, talking game ball design in this week's Hot Read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair!
Pepper, Flip, Caliber. O-Town, Happy, Jolly, Drunk, Buster, Boomer, Tiger! I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think. V19!
Okay, time for us to give our own thoughts about this XFL game ball, and we've heard all about it there from Sam Schwartzstein and everything that went into making this thing, but let's dive into it, because we have the game balls out there. They're up for sale on XFL.com. There are 8 balls, custom to each team, and we'll get into some of the details here, but I just want to first say, Vince, are you surprised there isn't just one uniform ball? What did you think of the fact that there's 8 different balls unique to each team whenever they're on offense?
Well, in the college game, teams use their own unique balls, so I guess I'm not. This isn't that revolutionary, but they usually just have a small logo on them. This you got some the same logo but different colors. I think it's interesting. To me, it's more of a marketing and merchandise type thing. That you could get the official ball for your club. So at the end of the day, I don't think that's certainly not a bad thing. I'm all for it.
I like it, as you said, as a marketing and merchandising thing, because who wouldn't want to own a ball that's specific to their team? I think that's brilliant, and to actually market that, I mean, that is a thing that is done in the college game, and every team has their own balls that they supply, and they're usually have a logo or something on it. But for the league to sell it that way and make it really a big part of the whole marketing and merchandising campaign and reveal of the football, I think is really cool and unique. Bryant, are you ready to hear about the specific details some more? We went into some of them there with Sam Schwartzstein, but can I run down the measurements and the dimensions and the circumference of this thing?
Definitely, Alan. I will just add, because Sam Schwartzstein did mention it, but he basically said that they wanted to highlight the fact that each team gets their own ball on offense. So it's a pretty, a pretty cool thing that the XFL just wanted to make sure everybody could see, so that way they can market it a little bit more. But yes, Alan, let's get through the details of this football, because I really want to know how long it is in centimeters.
All right, here we go. I don't know if we have it in...
Please not. Inches, please.
I'm going in inches here, Bryant. Come on. This is America. Okay, so Team Issue are the production partner for the ball. You saw their facility in that video that we talked about earlier in Dallas, Texas. Team Issue helped create this football, this beautiful piece of pigskin. And it is a standard professional football size, as Sam Schwartzstein said. It is 28 to 28 and a half inches long circumference, short circumference 21 to 21 and a quarter inches. It weighs 14 to 15 ounces. I was tossing it around to a family around Thanksgiving, and people were telling me, well, it's definitely not a Tom Brady ball. It's a hard, fully inflated ball, which is everybody's always concerned with these days. And the texture is that X-Pebble exterior grip technology we talked about with Sam Schwartzstein, which I love, and I just think is totally rad, the fact that it's X's all over it. I mean, it could have been it could have been diamond-shaped. It could have just been slashes, but the fact that it's X's, Vince, I think is pretty cool. And the dimensions, it's a prolate spheroid. Vince, you're a smart guy and understand shapes. What's prolate spheroid? What does that mean?
Oh, well, that's it. You're telling me you don't know what that means?
No. What's a prolate spheroid?
Well, that's when you got a you got two spheres that you're elongating, and they're coming out into a conical end on both sides.
Okay.
And it's stretched out from a foci that's usually about, I'd say, like 2/3 of the distance of the whole actual X dimension.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So that kind of clears that up. All right, cool. It's also made of traditional red leather that they're going to brown it on game day, Brian, as Sam Schwartzstein said, and this isn't going to look like some kind of silly kid toy football. This looks like a regular old football because it is that traditional brown color, which I think is pretty important. You and I love the old XFL football, but the fact that this one looks more like a traditional football, I think makes it better.
You're right. It does look very traditional, but it has the XFL spin on it. The color is something that I think is really important to have the visibility of a football. The XFL almost went with a full black football, if you remember, back in 2001, and that would have been horrible for players to track at night or under the lights. So I think going to the actual brown football and these white stripes is a good color and a good way for the players to identify that floating pigskin in the air.
And as we talked about, the X-tips, which are very prominent and noticeable on these balls, they are white with the team primary color surrounding it. It is $125 plus shipping and handling on XFL.com if you want to get yours. And Now we could talk about which are our favorites and about these X-tips some more, Vince. So we talked to Sam Schwartzstein about the X-tips, locating the football easier, hopefully, for wide receivers because of those tips. What do you think of that portion of the football?
I think it'll improve quality of the play. So from that standpoint, I'm all for it.
But do you think that now we've gone into this thing now a lot with the enhancements? Do you think I called it kind of a football hack to Sam Schwartzstein there? Like maybe it's fumble proof, or maybe it makes it easier to catch. Do you think this could be like a hacked football where it's going to be easier to use for offensive players? Or do you think defensive players are going to be able to get their hands on these footballs just the same?
I guess you got to. I suppose it is. The same. Probably still advantages the offense just a little bit more. But I don't know if this really is going to make that much of a difference. But it's something different, and it's an attempt to improve the game. So yeah, is it kind of like a hack or cheating or something like that? I don't know, but. It's going to help provide better entertainment, and I think that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
And it's a cool thing. I mean, I'm telling you, if you're a collector, if you're someone who wants to fork out the 125, get this thing. They're too cool. I would, if I had like a space for all these footballs, I'd buy them all, and I'd put them on display on a mantle. They're that rad. I will say, I put this on the Football Advisory Network. I would like to see a league ball, one that isn't team specific, that way only as a collector though, because I would like to have all 8 balls on a mantle with the league ball in the middle as the 9th, and I think that would look like that'd be really cool. Maybe under a portrait I would have above that of Winston Moss above my fireplace. That would be ideal for me as a collector, Brian.
Alan, did you get your hands on one of those prototype balls that they had during the summer showcases?
No, I didn't get to touch it. I saw it. It was definitely a longer prolate spheroid, I guess. It wasn't. It didn't look as much like a traditional football as the official game ball design looks. Yeah, I saw it though. It was there in New York and DC when I went to the summer showcases.
So when I was in LA, they were doing these receiver out routes, and the quarterbacks were trying to hit the receivers. Some would catch, some would miss, or whatever. So I gingerly just walked over there. It just was like in the hopes that a ball would be missed or overthrown or something like that, and it was. And I ran over to that ball to grab it, to feel it, to grab it. The more I think about it, I should have grabbed it and just kind of kept running to my car. Maybe that would have been great, because I really want an XFL league ball. The only reason is because I want a league ball. But you're right; those things are pretty cool. I wonder, did I have to go back and listen? Schwartzstein did say at some point they knew that the ball was right. He didn't mention what showcase, I don't believe, but I'm wondering if I was actually holding on to the final prototype or not at that moment in time.
No, I think he was. I think he did mention that it was at the TSL Spring League Mission Viejo event.
Oh, you're right. Yes,
when they kind of came to the conclusion that they finally by George, I think we've got it moment. And we have this ball. Yeah, the other ball I think I saw might have had. I think it was like it had a lot of white on it, from what I recall. I thought I took a picture. I don't know. I'd have to go back through my phone archives, Vince. But we have these 8 balls. Which one do you like the best, Vince, of the 18 balls?
I actually kind of like the Guardians one because it looks like the old XFL.
Yeah, I was asking.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I was asking Bryant before the show. I said, "Hey, help a colorblind brother out. Is this the original color scheme for the 2001 ball?" And he said, "Kind of," because it does look like that to me, at least.
Yeah, the original logo had some silver in it. I don't think it was too white. I'm looking at my old school XFL balls that I have here in the studio, and it had a little more silver than white in there. Alan, I'm going to say my favorite looking, because of the background with the ball and the color scheme, is going to be the Dragons football. It just looks really cool with the green and the orange highlight, and then you have the orange brownish ball behind it. I think that one's one of my favorites. The Roughnecks too looks pretty cool, because that's the current XFL logo basically on the football. So that's as close as you're going to get to a league ball, at least at the time being, is the Houston Roughnecks ball.
Yeah, you're right. It does look like the regular league logo on the Roughnecks. That's why I would have put it in my top 3. They're all great. I want all of them. I want to catch them all, as the Pokey kids say.
Alan, you do have a wedding coming up. These look like some great registry items.
Oh, these look like some good groom's gifts. Or, I mean, I'm not going to have a whole lot of groomsmen, but bachelor party gifts maybe.
Yeah, ooh, okay, that would be great.
Yeah, maybe a bachelor party gift or something. Maybe I'm gonna have to hit up people at the league office, but instead of team names underneath the logos, I could get my good friends' names under them. Customized.
That's a great
footballs.
market to tap into. Customized footballs embroidered or monogrammed with somebody's name on them. That'd be great.
I think the Vipers football would look really cool if under the logo it just said Vince instead of Vipers.
Alan, do you guys have a hashtag for your wedding?
Not yet. No.
So you can put that under the team logo too, right?
It's 6 months away. Don't be pressuring me.
Oh, my friend, you're supposed to be learning from me. Come on, 6 months. That's no time.
Procrastination. This is the way. That is the way. I'll tell you my top 3 of these footballs. I like the St. Louis ball, not just because that's the ball that I have, but I think it just looks rad. I love the white and the blue. It pops. I love the Wildcats ball because XFL in black. I don't know. It just looks like a tougher football. It looks really cool. And I'll say my third favorite is the DC ball. I'm a sucker for the red and white Vince, but those are my top 3. I will say the Tampa and the Renegades one especially. The Renegades one looks a little bit. I don't know how to put this. It just looks like it's just way different from all the other footballs to me. It looks like an outcast to me. It looks like, I don't know, more, what's the word, cartoony than the other footballs.
The Renegades.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the Renegades are outlaws. That's why that looks like that.
It doesn't scream very outlaws. It screams, "Hey, here's your baby shower gift for your baby boy."
Well, I'll say this.
It's a baby boy ball. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. One of the, they've kind of fallen off a little bit, but in the 90s and early 2000s, one of the best high school football teams in the entire country, Woodland Hills High School out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who at one time had the most players active in the NFL at one time. Their colors were turquoise and black, and they were some of the baddest dudes around. So I am not shying away from these colors at all.
The baby boy ball. I think that might be can we rename this episode to Baby Boy Ballers?
I mean, I want it for sure. Renegades. I want myself a Dallas Renegades ball. I'm just saying it looks different compared to the other ones. I don't know. Like Brian said, maybe a little bit more kiddie.
If anybody wants to do like a farce Renegades podcast, you should really call yourselves the Baby Boy Ballers.
That'd be rad. That'd be like a cool side nickname for the team. I wouldn't be ashamed of having that as my nickname, the Baby Boy Ballers. You got a top ball, Brian, or top 3 or anything, rankings or whatever?
Well, like I said, the Dragons is really cool. I like that one. That's the whole color scheme. I'm all about continuity here, and the entire thing put together is pretty cool. The Roughnecks, as well. I'm a big fan of that one. I will say with the Wildcats, it almost looks bright. I'm wondering if that's going to have some good. I would say the Wildcats and the Vipers. It almost looks very vibrant. That I wonder if the lights are going to reflect off of that in a good way or a bad way. I don't know, but I feel like it's kind of like a reflector almost. It seems like
some good slow motion video at night with that ball rotating through the air. I feel what you're saying.
Did you spend any time on the AR website they made, Bryant?
I did, actually. I was in a meeting at work when they popped out, and I started trying to put it on like my boss's head. It didn't really work out too well, but it was pretty cool. I'm hoping to get some. I'm going to try to get into that this week when I'm out and about in LA and trying to get some cool shots with the Wildcats football.
Yeah, it's a cool way to get a social media post made there. I like that as a marketing campaign for the footballs. They made the augmented reality website. You can mess around with on your phone.
Yeah, and it is pretty cool. I want to put it on top of like, the Staples Center or something like that if I get the opportunity to be on a Metro bus, things like that, because it is a pretty cool little feature and a great marketing tool to get people to just interact with your league, and that's kind of what the league's always been about, right? Getting people to interact with them as much as possible, so that augmented reality AR football is pretty cool. If you haven't checked it out, go check out their social media at XFL 2020.
Yeah, Vince, I know you probably haven't checked it out yet, but you really got to kill some time on that augmented reality website. If you're bored.
Well, that's very rare, but I will check that out.
You have to. And you have to get yourself an XFL football on XFL.com and send pics of you holding it and maybe posing like an old-timey football player. That's what I was doing. I was doing the punter pose. The old 1950s punter pose, Vince.
That's one of my favorites.
Get your XFL football at XFL.com. Post them on social media. People are already doing that. And, we got balls. We got them. They're official. They're out there. And
can I present this question to everyone real quick? And Alan, I know we don't have it here on the rundown, but I just want to ask. On a scale of 1 to 10, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but how necessary was the XFL to develop something that was different than just your standard football?
Oh, I thought it was very necessary because that was one of the things that actually people loved about the original XFL, even though functionally on the field it was kind of a mess in terms of, a lot of people bought that football and people love that football and talk about that football. So to have something unique to the league in that regard, I think was crucial, and I'm so happy that we got these footballs. I'm just hoping that, on the field they perform well and the players love them. And so far we've heard from quarterbacks that are hopefully not just saying it to say it, but are actually enjoying playing around with these balls and tossing them and getting used to them, because this is the tool that they will be using each and every single week come February.
Yeah, I feel like it was something that the XFL wanted to attack because you're right, it was such an iconic part of the original XFL. What's interesting to me is just the technology behind it. They didn't just repaint the NFL ball, right? They redesigned their own ball. So to see that, I think, is probably the aspect that I thought maybe at first wasn't too necessary to redesign a football that's been working for 150 years. But now that I'm thinking about it, this X-Pebble technology and the grip and all this that the XFL put so much time into is probably something that's going to help their game mightily in February.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on fumble statistics to see if this X-Pebble technology helps running backs grip it better, high and tight. That's all you got to do. Hold on to that thing. Don't hold it like a loaf of bread, especially these beautiful, gorgeous, brand new footballs.
I think it's more dropped passes is what I'm going to be focusing in on the most, I would say, to see if this, little white touch on the tip of the ball makes any differences, being able to view the ball and make a secure catch.
There we have it. Our full conversation on the XFL football. Hopefully next we'll have Jake in here to not only talk about the football, Bryant, but gotta feel like jerseys are going to be revealed pretty soon too, and equipment, uniforms. This is all going hand in hand, and stuff that's going to be fun to talk about and debate. Jerseys, I feel, are going to be a lot more contentious in terms of what people like and prefer. I mean, that also goes hand in hand with team pride. So,
actually, Alan, this is just breaking in as we're filming this, as we're recording this. Actually,
what?
Team jerseys are going to be out this Tuesday. 12/3, announced by the league on Twitter. At XFL 2020, they're going to be announcing all jerseys. We might have to stop and watch this video. It looks really interesting. There's some coaches in this one that looks like I'm playing it without sound. I don't know what. There's Moss, but yeah, they're announcing team jerseys. Selfishly, I'm really excited because that's my birthday. 12/3. We're going to see some jerseys, helmets. It sounds like. Oh wow, this is pretty interesting, man.
What a birthday present! So jerseys coming this. You said Tuesday.
Tuesday, 12/3. They're going to be announcing. And showing off, I assume, all the jerseys, helmets, color schemes, and how I'm assuming home and away. So right
what
before minicamp seems
what
like
you're telling me is that next week for us is going to be one of those weeks We're gonna be in front of these microphones a bunch next week. Then is what you're telling me.
It sounds like it. We're probably gonna have to get Jake on the Patreon to talk about those jerseys as soon as they come out. Unless we want to do something on YouTube, you tell me. But we'll definitely be on this mic pretty much a good amount of time next week, as we are most weeks anyway.
We are talking jerseys next week. Then, all right, I'm game. I cannot freaking wait.
It's going to be a fun-filled week next week. I'm sure Jake, I don't know if he's actually seen this text, but he's probably going to be super ecstatic when he sees that coming out. But yeah, next week's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, this is like the biggest thing since team names for a lot of people. All right, well, we got that on the rundown, at least for next week's show.
So much to go, Alan. So much still left to be had. I'm still waiting for the rule book. That's what I'm really yearning for, is that I'm not churning for it, I'm yearning for it, that rule book. But yeah, jerseys are supposed to be coming out pretty soon here, and I think that's when Jake, that might be a 2-hour episode, and none of us three actually probably get an award in.
There might be an episode per jersey. Jake talking about it all. Maybe we'll get some fashion.
Well, there's not too many weeks left to get all that in.
Only 10 weeks till kickoff. 1 month from training camp, and I mean a lot of planning, a lot of prep, and a lot of fun to be had in that time frame. And then we're in season form, and we're going to be, oh my goodness, just doing big things here on This Is the XFL Show. Follow us at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Call into the XFL fan line if you want to agree or disagree, especially with Vince. 724-565-4XFL. Vince, you got any parting words for everybody?
I just hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving out there, a safe Thanksgiving, and maybe by the time that you listen to this show, this Black Friday sale on XFL.com will still be going on, 40% off select merchandise.
Yeah. They got the new hats out too. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be grabbing.
Caps. I might be picking up a Renegades hat.
A baby bad.
You get one for my baby if it's a son.
No, Brian, are you sure you're going to be going to an LA Wildcats function with your kid wearing Renegades gear? Come on.
I wouldn't be my kid anymore. I might have to leave him there.
You may have the first child that you could say was born a Wildcat fan. How about that?
Yeah. And if the timing works out perfectly, it might be ready for kickoff. So we'll see.
If Brianna gives birth at the kickoff, oh my goodness! Like as the ball's getting kicked off, how great would that be?
It would be great, but I wouldn't be there to see it. I'd be at the stadium. So
there's something called television.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Want to thank Sam Schwartzstein, the Director of Football Operations at the XFL, and everybody at the league office for setting that interview up with us. That was a lot of fun learning about this game ball design. Please send us pictures of you holding your XFL game balls. We want to see them. We want to see who you're representing at XFL Show on Twitter. I got my Battlehawks ball, but I think I'm going to have to collect them all eventually. For Vince, for Bryant, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember,
they're listening.
Thanks for watching and listening, XFL fans. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below, or even better, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things XFL. Check out some of our other videos and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at XFL Show. This is the XFL Show is a production of Pretty Easy Podcasts.